trying to like church happening.
He liked him a couple months ago, and I just thought, you know. Still saying he loves them. It should be some relief because something wrong.
Okay, where have you been?
I saw you picture in the paper. No, last week I guess. Your picture.
They're off. They're off?
Hello, hello?
Alright, so is my connection. Oh, it did? Okay. Oh, no, I don't think they all have the same time.
Great. You did great. I gotta say. Well, great.
I'm good. Me and Jen.
You're like betting money there.
Yeah. Well, now, you know what I mean? She's like, I don't have any idea. I'm sitting at my house all the time, she's laughing. I'm parents got and obviously we're from there's stuff up there that's not. It's just a little under.
She's all over. Have you seen any further?
Yeah, I watched it pretty slow. Like I know that John's hair.
Yeah.
She wanted to come back, I would have it the exact same way. Jen, how you doing? Like, you just take her completely off now.
Like Kelsey would love to meet.
How's your cheeks doing? You should go over and say hello. Let me know if you're over there.
The last time I did this, it kept saying,
Get that killer out!
okay, fingers crossed.
So, we're ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. This is the March 7th workshop meeting of the Borough Council of the Borough of Oceanport. And this is the statement of compliance with
with the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting complies with the Open Public Meetings Act by notification on January 9th, 2019 of this location, date, and time to the Asbury Park Press and the Link News, and by the posting of same on the municipal bulletin board and the borough's website. Ask you to all please stand so we can salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Hi, everybody. Let's take a moment of prayer. Lord, we welcome your presence with us tonight. Bless our meeting, our government body, the entire community of Oceanport with your presence, your wisdom, your grace, and unity. Amen.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Sure. Councilman Proto?
Here.
Councilman Array?
Here.
Councilman Gallo?
Here.
Councilman O'Brien?
He's stuck at work, he can try to get here.
Council President Sullivan?
Here.
Councilman Deering?
Here.
Mayor Coffey?
Here. First thing we have are resolutions. The first one is a resolution authorizing payment of the bill list for March 7, 2019. Any questions on that? No? A motion?
So moved. Second.
On the vote.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Array?
Yes.
Councilman Gallo?
Yes.
Council President Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Deering?
Yes.
Next item is a resolution concerning the Fort Monmouth Reuse Plan Amendment number 14. Any questions or comments?
A lot of comments. Yes.
All right.
All right. Amendment 14, as we are faced with yet another Famura Fort Monmouth Plan amendment, the propaganda machine led by Bruce Stedman continues to pump out false narratives and half-truths. Mr. Stedman comments to the media that Oceanport knew about the previous amendment, Amendment 13, back in September 2018 when they met with an Oceanport ad hoc committee of who knows who, allows Famura to wash their hands of any further obligation to notify Oceanport's elected representatives. Perhaps I should refresh Mr. Stedman's memory. In December 2018, Mayor Coffey, Councilman Proto, our administrator Donna Phelps, and I met with Famura to discuss Fort Monmouth redevelopment in Oceanport. This was some 3 months after Mr. Stedman claims Oceanport knew about any proposed plan changes by New Jersey City University. Yet, at our December meeting, there was no mention of this at all. I can't help but feel that Mr. Stedman and others at Famura deliberately misled and failed to disclose any of this to your elected representatives. I have a guess as to why. Perhaps Mr. Stedman feels that the less we know, the better chance that things will sail through without any objection. Why else would he fail to disclose this information to your elected officials? Now, on the back of a misguided Amendment 13, which, as of this moment, still has not been changed, although just about 10 minutes ago I received a text message which shows some changes to this amendment, but I haven't looked at them yet. We are handed yet another amendment which will permanently change the landscape of Oceanport and not for the better. The Oceanport Planning Board did a fantastic job in showing everything that is wrong with this plan. In fact, I believe it's 16 pages long. This group of volunteers did a great job in defending Oceanport and trying to maintain our quality of life while keeping our town a great place to live. I don't want to belabor the points made by the planning board, but I want to reiterate the concerns of past municipal councils who have insisted on inclusionary affordable housing, rather than putting 37 affordable rental apartments in 2 separate buildings, not included with the townhouse development. This is not our vision of the future of Oceanport. Also, in comparison with another townhouse development we have in town, Kimberly Woods, we see how dense and misguided this Amendment 14 is. I'm sure most of you have seen Kimberly Woods. Did you know there are 120 units there at a density of 5.5 units per acre? Amendment 14 is asking for 13 units per acre. That's high density in any definition and not in keeping in our character with any other neighborhoods in the borough of Oceanport. Did you know that Kimberly Woods is 30 feet high? That is 5 feet below our borough height limit of 35 feet. and well below the Amendment 14 plan, which calls for a staggering 44 feet of living space. I'm sorry, of height. The developer of Amendment 14 is proud to call this a new urban planning development. But I'd like to remind him and Famira that we are not an urban city, but rather a suburban borough, and we'd like to stay that way. Currently, Oceanport is comprised of mainly single-family homes with a few townhomes and even less rental apartments. Why is it that every development, every single one either proposed or already built by Famira, consists of high-density townhomes and rental apartments? Not one single-family home has been proposed, despite that being the lion's share of what we have currently in Oceanport. Again, one wonders why nothing is being proposed by Famira that fits in with the character of Oceanport. I urge this council to once again take a strong stance against this ill-advised plan, and in the strongest terms possible, voice your opposition to Famira control over Oceanport's future, our future. And I ask all our residents to show up at the Famira meeting of March 20th and tell Bruce Stedman and the Famira board to follow Oceanport's planning and zoning laws and keep Oceanport, Oceanport. After what happened after Amendment 13, our voices were heard, your voices were heard, and we're hearing changes are coming. So we need you again at March 20th at the Famira meeting. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As Joe said tonight, we were discussing Plan Amendment 14. This amendment is right on the heels of Plan Amendment 13. And it certainly seems that Famira is on a mission to cram as much high density and urban construction as they can into the Oceanport section of Fort Monmouth. Urban and density are two terms you will be hearing a lot of in the near future. Plan Amendment 14 calls for 148 for-sale townhouses and 37 affordable rental units to be crammed into a 15-acre parcel. It is yet another example of Bruce Stedman's utter disdain for our zoning laws and contempt for Oceanport's right to local control over our own development. Plan Amendment 14 allows the developer to build their townhouses 44 feet high. As Joe said, our ordinance permits a height of 35 feet. It allows for 3 stories of living space. Our zoning allows for 2 stories. Setbacks are virtually non-existent. Density is increased by 40% over the allowable amount. And most egregious, the affordable units are being lumped into 2 buildings and segregated from the for sale units. In addition to the aforementioned, the developer is seeking a pilot or a tax break from the borough. The planning board approved a 15-page resolution outlining their objections and concerns that include infrastructure, height, density, parking, traffic, impact on municipal services, setbacks, the affordable component, stormwater management, and environmental concerns. The full resolution is part of the agenda for those who want to read it in greater detail. Our planner and engineer have also expressed the same objections and concerns as the planning board in their reports. At a recent meeting between Bruce Stedman, Somerset Development, the mayor, our BA Donna, and myself, I expressed my concerns about the size and scope of this project. I also expressed my concern that the power of the Planning and Zoning Board is being usurped by Famira. I was told in no uncertain terms by Bruce Stedman that he didn't care and this was the project that he's going with. There is a process at the Planning Board if someone needs to go outside of our restrictions. It's the process of applying for a variance. In this process, the applicant must demonstrate a hardship, and the board needs to exercise good judgment when granting a variance. In the case of Somerset Development, their only hardship is they want to sell the units for the highest possible price. And in all honesty, I have no issue with that. They are in business to maximize their profits. But our roles as elected officials is to make sure that that does not come at the expense of our town. The counter arguments in favor of this project will most likely be, 1, it's over at the fort, nobody will see it. 2, the more they sell the houses for, the higher the ratables for the town. 3, the fort will be Oceanport the city and we will be Oceanport the suburb. I've heard these arguments, I don't agree with them. We cannot stop the development at the fort, but maybe we can stop the overdevelopment of it. If not, at least we should try, and that's what we've been doing. If anyone sitting up here in good conscience can support what we've seen from Famira in plans 13 and 14, then I honestly don't see the need for either a planning or zoning board from this point forward. While we continue to fight for our town, Famira can plan all the bus tours they want. Famira is charged with replacing the jobs lost at Fort Monmouth. This development, when finished, will create one full or part-time job, just one. And that's not me saying it, that's coming from Famira. In my opinion, Bruce Stedman and Famira are not interested in doing what is best for Oceanport. They are interested in getting as much money as they can for their parcels, and they're interested in their own job security. And that is it. And if you don't believe that, I suggest when you go on the bus tour, you tell Bruce Stedman to drive you to the nearest bridge he has for sale. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just not much more to add to what Councilman Proto and Councilman Irais had to say, except we did receive some comments from our emergency services. Pretty similar to Amendment 13, a lot of the same concerns were raised and voiced. From our police department, what type of an increase in call volume can be expected from this location, the amount of time that officers will either remain for investigations at that location, and also as part of the proposal itself, the plan amendment, there was not a traffic study attached to this as of yet. And of course, that would need to be done for all of our emergency services, not just the police department, but of course, fire, EMS, entrance and egress into the development, the width of the roads, how many entrances are into the actual facility itself would have to be spelled out for us. Also, this property does have a waterfront area along Parker's Creek. Along that waterfront area, the questions arise, such as what type of access are our emergency services going to have to that, not only if we have to retrieve somebody or something out of the water, but also in case of fire at these locations, and if there isn't enough available water through the utility side, what type of arrangements or what type of access would they have for drafting if drafting needs to be done. These are all questions that need to be answered, and these are all questions that so far have not been answered. In my opinion, the last amendment and this amendment, without any regard to our emergency services, we're just kind of prepared kind of haphazardly, and there wasn't any forethought. That's one thing. You can see my ears are starting to turn red when I start talking about this. There wasn't any forethought to it. They dare I say, they just didn't care about it. They don't address it. They haven't addressed it yet. I have little faith that they're going to address it with any future amendment going forward. It just hasn't been done. Also, regarding the size of it, that leads into another bit of information I received from the school board, specifically pertaining to the layout, not only of this development, but of the entire fort so far, and the percentages of bedroom counts over there. Obviously, depending on the amount of units and how many bedrooms are included in these units, that is going to affect how many children end up in our school system. Are they one-bedroom units? What percentage is one bedroom? Are they two-bedroom? Are they three-bedroom? Part of the statute with affordable housing, there are percentages of, for example, three-bedroom units. Let's start with that. If you count the entire fort area as one development, which we believe it is, the RPM process, the RPM units, rental units, had 24 three-bedroom units in that development. Those 24 would satisfy our allotment for three-bedroom units throughout our entire development of the fort. Famira is not treating it that way. For example, with this new amendment, Amendment 14, all of the market rate units, all of the townhomes are three-bedroom with an option for a fourth bedroom. That's 100 and I believe it's 147? 148 market rate townhomes, all three-bedroom, every single one of them. I think we can all see where the problem is with that. It's nowhere to go. With that, that's about all I have right now.
Anybody else?
Well, my opinion on, I guess I am the odd man out here. I'm in favor of the resolution, but I don't have a long record. I don't have a problem with the 30 to 40 feet, whatever. I don't, what Rob's was saying, some people go back and forth. I don't feel that it's, we're all the same Ocean, but I don't think it's gonna be that way. I think, to use an word, we're Mayberry and that's Mount Pilot. I don't think it will affect that much dramatically the way Oceanport is. I do think it's gonna be two separate kind of towns. And we can argue this ad nauseum, but I'm not gonna, that's just my feeling on it.
Anybody else? Rick?
Well, the only thing I would say is, I know our first aid has trouble in the condos with 2 stories, to go to 3 stories, be a burden on our first aid getting up there to the 3rd story. Also, if I look at it as a fire department, we just recently had a fire in Seabright. You don't lose one apartment, you lose them all. It's just too many in one spot, and it's just gonna be burdensome on that. Also, still haven't heard anything about the sewer system. You got all these townhouses going up. Where's the sewer? I haven't heard anything about the sewer being rebuilt or anything yet. Electric, I don't know if the electric is gonna be able to handle it. I don't know, they haven't said anything. Our Borough Hall, 2 years, and we're still waiting on whether sewer, water, and electric is getting there. So, I mean, there's all these questions, so I'm too in support of the resolution and what everybody else said.
Well, it's pretty clear that everybody did their homework on this one. There's 15 pages of notes from the planning board. We've got our engineer kicking in, our planners. The system is set up so that when something's passed by FEMIRA and presented to the town, we've got the ability to respond, and I think we responded in kind. These are developers coming in. They're going to ask for the moon and the stars. It's our job to tell them they're just going to get, a tiny little planet. And then somewhere you hope in the middle or work closer to what we want. The final amendment is made and everybody walks away happy. There's no doubt they're gonna have to hear from us on 14. On 13, I can tell you, just backtracking a bit, we got a letter from KKF University Enterprise LLC. It came to all of us by fax, and I can tell you that on behalf of KKF University Enterprises, the contract purchase of Squire Hall and New Jersey State University, our long-term tenant, please be advised that we've requested that the Fort Monmouth Economic Revitalization Authority make the following changes to proposed amendment number 13 to the Fort Monmouth Reuse and Redevelopment Plan, the amendment. These changes are being requested as a result of discussions among representatives of the respective parties and the stakeholders regarding the amendment, and specifically include the following items: the removal of residence halls, parking garages, art centers, and athletic facilities, both buildings and fields, from the definition of ancillary uses for an institution of higher learning. In addition to the aforesaid general prohibition of uses, the express removal of the following items as permitted uses: a 5-story, 60-foot-high residence hall not to exceed 95,000 square feet. No form of student housing or dormitories will be permitted. A 5-story, 70-foot-high academic lab building and visual arts center. A 5-story, 60-foot-high athletic center. A 2-story, 80-foot-high performing arts center. A 5-story, 72-foot-high parking garage. Practice athletic fields and ancillary support fields and field houses. Removal of the request to increase the permitted floor area ratio for the entire property to 1.00. Clarification that the existing bulk and area standards of the Green Tech Campus District, which are not specifically modified by the amendment, shall remain in full force and effect. The revision of the proposed conceptual plan would show the above referenced buildings. We hope that with these requested changes, Oceanport's concerns regarding the proposed amendment will be alleviated. And I think, Rob, you can tell me better, they presented a cut-down plan. It's just for the building of the redevelopment of Squire Hall, knock down the building to the right for the parking lot, and then to knock down the 5 buildings on the left-hand side.
That's the site plan going in front of
Correct.
the planning board. That was the original site plan going for approval Tuesday in front of the planning board. These changes are obviously a result of the developer hearing our concerns, and it may be a bit premature to do a victory lap. I'd love to be able to see what the final agreement would look like. My concern would be that they request to pull these from Amendment 13, but somewhere down the road, Amendment 19 comes and it has the same buildings and structures in it. So I would hold back on expressing any glee towards seeing this letter until maybe we can figure out with our professionals how we could strike a deal with the developer that would allow our planning board to have final say over what happens there in phase 2 and phase 3 and removes Famira from the process.
I think
Whether or
that-
not that's feasible, we'll find out, but this is a great start.
I think that what you're talking about as far as the planning board having more say, would have to be done legislatively, and that's,
Unless an agreement can be struck between the developer of the borough, the redevelopment agreement.
Famira has a legislative right.
So anybody taking anything away means really nothing. They can take it away and come back.
And the process will kick in again where they have to come back for us for comment.
I would ask that if we do strike the redevelopment agreement, that that's all included in there. And I think they were, when we had our meeting with them, Councilman Proto, Councilman Solon, correct me if I'm wrong, they were amenable to come to our planning board.
And I think Famira is amenable to having the legislation changed, so there's no doubt about it, so they have to come to our planning board. And I don't think any developer would mind that either. I think they'd rather deal with us than with Famira.
No, I think they would be okay with it, so, great.
All right, so we have a motion and a second?
We don't
We don't have any,
have.
okay, so I need a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Arias?
Yes.
Councilman Gallo?
Yes.
Council President Solon?
Yes.
Councilman Deere?
Yes.
The next item is resolution awarding a contract to Mazer Consulting asbestos and demo at the new municipal complex. With a motion.
So moved.
On the
This
vote.
discussion,
Yeah,
real quick.
yeah, sure.
This is just, we talked about this back in November, when the asbestos numbers came in, from our engineer. They're higher, much higher than what we thought they were going to be. I believe now, this is
500,000.
400,000, 600,000 for asbestos removal, which is a lot more than we thought. So what we're committed to do is keep that as part of the 11 million, so, you know, that'll reduce some other things, but the 11 million we're gonna spend for Borough Hall is 11 million. So at this point, we're not looking to go after the taxpayers for any differences. That's all I'm saying that there.
Anybody else? On the vote. Excuse me, on the vote.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Arias? Councilman Gallo?
Yes.
Council President Solon?
Yes.
Councilman Deere?
Yes.
Next, we have the administrator's report, which we're having Donna pulling double duty tonight.
I was gonna have,
You're gonna have.
but I ran out of time. The borough's fire subcode official resigned effective February 28, 2019. I did meet with our borough's construction official, John Johnson, who advised that since inspections were scheduled, he did appoint the borough's backup fire subcode official as our acting fire subcode official, until such time as a replacement can be found. John is requesting that we advertise the position and also advertise for hourly, part-time, as-needed backup inspectors for building, fire, plumbing, and electric. So we do not find ourselves in this position again, and also to be prepared for the potential extra workload as development moves forward in Oceanport. So if everybody is agreeable, I would ask for a motion to authorize the advertising for the reference position.
Yeah, that's on, I make that motion.
On the vote.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Arias?
Yes.
Councilman Gallo?
Yes.
Council President Solomon?
Yes.
Councilman Deere?
Yes.
Thank you. Council President Solomon reached out to me regarding correspondence the governing body received from the Oceanport PVA requesting that the borough increase their extra duty rates, which have not increased since February of 2015. I did provide Councilman Solomon with some information, and I will defer to him at this time.
Thank you, Donna. Basically, when our officers work, correct me if I get out of line here, when our officers work on behalf of a utility company or road work or something of that nature, they are paid, or built into the price is an out-of-duty contractual hourly rate for that. That rate has remained stagnant in Oceanport since, again, I believe it's 2015, right? If I heard
Yes.
correctly. Yeah, 2015. And we were lagging behind pretty much all of our surrounding towns. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and correct this at our next regular meeting. Some of the rates are going to increase. We used to, It's about an $8 per hour increase for regular added duty. Actually, it's $8 pretty much across the board. $68 for regular added duty assignments, $79 for Sundays and holidays. The only caveat to that is anything that happens at at Monmouth Park. Right now, they are charging $59 per hour. That is going to increase by $1 to a flat 60 for Monmouth Park as it stands right now. Also, there is an administrative fee that we get to bill these utilities or roadwork companies for the town. That is going to increase right now, I believe we're at 7 or 11.
We're at 11, we're gonna go to 12,
Or
which
11
is
to
what
12, it's a $1
neighboring
increase
towns.
also. So it's very minimal, but it brings us more in line with all of our surrounding towns around us. It's pretty much an average of where we are, just a touch below that. So again, at the next meeting, we can have a resolution.
Yeah, I'll make sure that Clerk knows that. We're still researching the purchase of recycling containers. It is the borough's intention not to use taxpayers' money, and the initial grant we received from the county is not sufficient to purchase containers for all households. I've been in touch with Clean Communities and other municipalities in an effort to secure additional funding. In addition, I spoke to our borough engineer tonight, and he's going to see if there is any available funding grants out there for additional recycling containers. And while I'm on the subject of recycling, the borough's construction official and myself met with Wall Township and Manasquan Borough regarding Oceanport's tonnage grant. As a result of the meeting, we were provided with a tremendous amount of information on how to increase the amount of money the borough receives annually. John and I will continue to work on securing the maximum amount the borough can receive. We've also been advised by the county that effective April 1st, tipping fees will increase from $71 per ton to $74.50 per ton. No doubt this will certainly have an impact on the borough when we go out to bid for our garbage recycling contract this year. The Adopt a Drain program, which we talked about with the Girl Scouts, is moving along thanks to Kim Parent at Borough Hall and Girl Scout Troop Leader Tina DeAngelis. The Girl Scouts would like to paint their logos somewhere near, that's it, yes, somewhere near the storm drains that they adopt. This will be done using a stencil and green paint, and I provided everybody with a copy of their logo. The minimum cost of this project will be funded through the borough's Clean Community Funds. I did speak to our engineer tonight to ask if there was any problem with putting this on the drains themselves. He said not at all. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that and find out if there are any objections to the Girl Scouts placing their logo near the storm drains, near or on the drains.
They can put it next to the fish.
Next to, yes, okay.
The fish for the direction of the Boy Scout project years ago.
So if everybody's okay with that, I will reach out to the Girl Scouts and let them know. It really is moving along. Things are worked hard on it. They're gonna get little vests, and gloves and rakes, and the girls, the troop is really excited about it.
Thank you.
I will. Public Works did a great job keeping the roads clear on Sunday evening into Monday morning with the winter storm that came through. It was ironic that on the same morning that they finished all the storm cleanup, Councilman Gallo, myself, and our Public Works foreman, Max Lopez, got together to discuss what needs to be done at the borough's fields and parks in anticipation of the upcoming recreation season. As far as fertilization, mulch, checking playground equipment, just to name a few items. Public Works will ensure that all their lawn maintenance equipment will be in good working order. Spring is on their radar screen and they are ready to hit the grounds running. In conjunction with those discussions, I also reached out to the borough's rec director, Joanne Hunt, to make sure that we're all on the same page. I will reach out to our borough clerk to ensure that there is a resolution authorizing her to advertise requests for proposals for an organization company to run the pool this season on the March 21st agenda. And I will also work with the CFO and our borough engineer, which we talked about today, to put together the specs for the proposal so that as soon as the resolution is approved at the 21st meeting, we can go right out and see if we can get a pool company on that. That concludes my report. However, since our CFO is with us tonight, and if there are no questions, I'll turn it over to Katie.
Katie, you look like you're.
Thanks, Donna. I really don't have much to say other than, at the next meeting, per usual course of business, there will be a resolution extending the temporary budget for the next 2 months per state law. Also, there's a potential for an appropriation reserve transfer resolution if need be, but it's a little bit too far out to see if I can, I don't know if I need to do that yet. The budget work continues, and I'm gonna turn that over to Finance Chair.
We met twice on the budget, Donna, myself, Katie, Councilman Proto, Councilman O'Brien, and we're getting there. It's, process is going very smooth. Thank you for your work, and thank you for your work. Hopefully for the workshop meeting in April, we will have something to present to council. We will, Katie's nodding her head, as they go back and forth. I know we have to add the tonnage grant, the tonnage number going up, which we kind of anticipated, now we have the number. So, as you see, it's a working flow, but we're plugging away to keep it at a reasonable level and still maintain the infrastructure and things that need to be done. So, it's all right now, I can report.
All right, we've got the March 21st, 2019 meeting items. Got a resolution authorizing a tax sale redemption. A resolution authorizing, any questions or comments on that? Resolution authorizing an aerial mosquito control operation. Sounds fun. A resolution approving certified LoSAP list for 2018. A resolution authorizing permits for facility uses for spring of 2019. That's a field usage? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Resolution awarding a contract for the Milton Avenue Drainage Project. A resolution authorizing renewal of an agreement with Seabright for court facilities. Thank you, Donna. A resolution appointing a safety coordinator. Approval of a fire department membership. That's for Dominic Ranieri. And we have workshop minutes from February 7th, executive session minutes from February 7th, and regular minutes from February 21st. We've got discussion items for this evening. I believe Councilman Sullivan, you're going to talk about the nursing home transportation ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest with you, I had 2 phone calls out that were not returned, numerous drive-bys and no apparatus seen. So I guess since they don't want to respond, they will know when they receive their first fine.
Okay. Next item is the mayor's report. I can tell you that the First Aid is having their 70th anniversary on March 18th. It's a Monday night at 8 p.m. Maple Place boys basketball lost in the finals against Tinton Falls last week in overtime, a heartbreaker. Stephen, that close, yes. They were up by 5 with 52 seconds left. Ended up getting tied on a three-pointer with 12 seconds to go, and then lost in overtime.
Refs, stop
The last time I remember that gym being that loud, it might have been louder than when Rob and my son played on the 2010 championship team against West Long Branch, which I thought was a loud gym. I think it might have been more acrimonious because it was West Long Branch versus us, and the tempers were hot. I do remember we blew them out, right, Rob?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
We take full credit. don't we?
Yes, we do. As parents, yes, we do. And this is the first time we've been back to the finals since then. And the gym, so many people showed up, they had to cut off access unless you were a family member. It was packed and it was loud. Tinton Falls came with the crew. There was a band there. It was a tremendous experience. It was a shame the boys lost. It was on a bad call too. I hate to blame the refs, but the ref didn't apply the rule correctly. And it's an inbounds pass. But it was a tremendous, I mean, for 8th graders, they might not ever play in a game that exciting again. We've got the March 16th bus tour for Mira. So I'm sure it does come with popcorn and some sort of soft drink. And then last thing I have is the International Code Council is looking for a proclamation. I got this from the building department. That May would be Building Safety Month. It'd be a proclamation that I would look to put on for the evening of the 21st. Essentially says that we're going to declare May 2019 as Building Safety Month.
Don't forget what else May is.
Yes, mayor's also brain tumor awareness, actually pediatrics brain tumor awareness. Well, I don't think they conflict, so I think we can have two things in one month. Other than that, we got nothing, so we'll go to petitions from the public. If you want to come up to the microphone, come down. You have to give your name and address and step away from that, or else you get some bad feedback.
We have a lot of rules.
Stand by Katie.
It's always safe to stand by Katie.
Chris Baggy, 200 Comanche. Good evening. The last workshop, there was a discussion about trees and sidewalks and right-of-ways and things. Is that-
I think that was an ordinance that was introduced, that was for trees that are in the right of way on people's properties.
Okay. I'd just like to point out something. In the event of a presidential disaster declaration, if they are the responsibility of the homeowner, they are not reimbursable by FEMA. If they are the responsibility of the borough, they are reimbursable by FEMA, for your consideration. Thank you.
Put that back, can't thank Katie, she's not to keep it away. Would anybody else like to come up and speak?
Steve Sharkey, Ocean Board. At last meeting, I raised a couple questions about the allegations of concealment of information from council members. And it's been going on a number of years. Seems like every keeps popping up. The last 12 years, I think I've heard Joe complain about it when Ben and Mahan were running the show, and now it's a new team doing it. And I met with Council President Solon. I laid out a couple of my concerns about how it's happening and maybe how to stop it. And I wanted to, and he suggested I bring it to the council meeting. So I have it laid out. I'm going to start by pointing out that the best way to show how it's happening is to show an example of it. And there was a case called Johnson versus the Borough of Oceanport. And it was an Open Public Records Act case about transparency. And Alan Johnson was a town resident, and he filed open requests for emails because he wanted to check on public officials if they were, what they were doing and if it was the right thing to be doing. And he has every right to do that, supported it. At that time, when he did this back in 2006, so this is an old case and it's dragged on for over 10 years. Cost us, the borough taxpayers, a lot of money because there was no transparency and there was concealment of information from the then council. So Johnson wanted these open requests, filed this open request for information. And the best way to lay it out is in a flow chart, and I'll pass it out to the council members so you can follow along.
Thanks.
The full information from you.
All right.
So, in my opinion, the borough business, all right, employees, vendors, citizens, legal matters, all right, we have professionals, paid professionals, who are responsible for handling that day-to-day information, all right? So, if borough business, and to get on the agenda, it has to come through our professionals, business administrator, clerk, borough attorney, CFO, all these people touch documentation and communicate with each other, I would assume, to understand what the borough operation is doing and what's going on. So the mayor, you know, volunteers, council members are volunteers, and we have an accusation or allegation that the mayor gets information and he's not sharing it with the council. And I don't understand how that could be. All right, if a piece of information or borough business comes into the mayor, all right, he doesn't tell the CFO, he doesn't tell the business administrator, he doesn't tell the borough attorney. Is that possible? Don't know. Anyone have a, how does that happen? How do you do that, Jeff?
If it's a closed session item, I'm gonna answer the question, Scotty. If I'm told something in closed session, the only people that I can share it with would be the council, not the CFO, that's how it'll work. It had to be done in a closed session here, coming out of it.
All right, so go on an agenda, you'd have to tell the clerk,
No,
put it on
I
an
would have to-
agenda, and you'd have to tell the borough
A closed
attorney
session.
who's preparing for the executive session.
Correct.
So at least the borough attorney, at least the borough clerk know about this information.
If it's gonna go to closed session.
If it's gonna go into closed session, if you don't want it to go to closed session, then you don't tell them.
That would be the net effect.
All right, so you are possibly not doing the right thing by not telling the borough professionals, okay, paid professionals, what's going on with the borough. You're acting alone then, so you're telling me.
No, we're gonna talk about a specific instance, like what I did, or what you're gonna talk about?
No, well, you're talking
And
about.
remember, this is a public comment period.
I know, and it's questioning of the process that is broken down, and how do we get to that? So you're saying that you get public information, borough information, you decide not to share it with the borough attorney, or the borough clerk, or the business administrator. The rest of these guys are gonna act without that information, and that's just wrong. Just
We're talking
absolutely
about
wrong.
the specific instance, how the process worked is exactly how it should work, and it did work.
With this, okay, with which one are you talking
Talk
about?
about the amendment 13, it worked exactly how it's supposed to.
Okay.
You get a chance to comment, go ahead.
All right, so-
Your situation's a bit different, the one you're gonna refer to.
All right, so my situation, this is before your time, obviously, and all your time, except Councilman Gallo, who was privy to this back in 2006 and 7. And at that time, the borough the borough clerk lost all the borough emails when her computer was replaced. And she didn't share that information, there's no public record of it, with then the 6 council members or the mayor, to my knowledge. So that loss of borough records, all right, she filed a certification and sworn testimony and basically said, I didn't get them. She didn't explain under Oprah that she lost them, and that's the proper explanation under Oprah. I received them, I lost them when my computer was replaced, and I should have reported it to council and told Alan Johnson that I've lost all the borough records, and I can't give you anything. That's what her response should have been. She didn't do that. At the same time, and you can see a judge, I'm printing out one page, 2 pages, 31 and 32. It was a decision on this case where it finally came to light that she lost all this information, and a judge ruled there's no way there was an Oprah violation of an intentional withhold of information by her because she lost them by accident, I'm assuming. All right. The problem was she didn't disclose it. So the judge ruled in this case, no one was guilty of an intentional Oprah violation. All right. So that concealment of that fact that she lost the information from Mr. Johnson pissed him off. He files a government records council complaint. Borough attorney at the time was John Bennett. And Bennett got a reminder from the clerk that I lost all the records. And instead of Bennett, the borough attorney at the time, disclosing that to the council to say, hey, let's admit we lost the records, he could have ended litigation, but he didn't. He concealed it from the council, and the government records council, and he tried to conceal it from a judge, and it was found out. And when it was found out, the judge made his ruling and said, Sharkey's not guilty of violating Oprah, the clerk wasn't guilty of violating Oprah intentionally. And it cost the borough, we paid John Bennett $25,000 to conceal it. We paid my attorney $25,000. All right, all the taxpayers funded that, those legal bills, and there should have been no reason for that to have happened. Okay, but it was the concealment of that information from the council members. And who concealed it? Borough attorney at the time, John Bennett. All right, that was the second case. That was a 60-day period of time. We're talking about emails that were responsive. The second case was 2000, and if you turn the page, this June 15, 2011 is the response I received from the clerk 2011, not 2006, 5 years later, and go to item 4D. Records cannot be provided as a majority of emails were lost during the transfer of information from previous computer to present computer in November of 2006. All right, so she knows that's important, and she didn't disclose that in 2006. The next page is a fax from the clerk at the time to John Bennett's office. And she's basically saying, again, I'm reminding you, I told you once, this is a reminder, I lost all of the responsive records in 2007. All right, she got the dates confused. All right, she did that in 2009. So instead of Bennett disclosing it to the council and saying, she's wrong, she lost all the barrel records, let's end this and just take the consequences. And it was an accident and there would have been no fine or anything, in my opinion. All right, but Bennett didn't do the right job for us. Go to the next page, and this is her testimony, the backside of it, where she was confronted on the cross-examination. She had admitted under oath that she lost all the barrel records. The next one is a grievance dated December 1st, 2006, all right, where she's complaining. She gave this to Mr. Arnett, and it's from Mr. Arnett, right, that my emails were hostile, complaining, or asking for too much information, basically. And Arnett's asking me for the emails that she should have had, but she's not telling us, no one's telling us that they lost them. So I'm firing back, she has all my emails, right? I gave them all in. So Arnett, on March 5th, was talking to me, I sent him an email, documented in writing, and saying, hey, the clerk has all my emails, right? And he's asking me for, Arnett's asking me for my emails, right? Does he know that they were destroyed or lost? I don't know at the time. I had no idea all these barrel records were destroyed. Then I look in May 22nd, I'm looking at Arnett's invoices to the barrel. And I see on March 22nd that he's billing the barrel for time to review the certification filed by the clerk. And that certification did not explain to the Government Records Council that she lost all the emails. That was a requirement of that certification. She left that important fact out. All right, so the GRC, a couple months later, said, we believe the certification, it's misleading, doesn't have all the facts in it, and showed she was guilty or possibly guilty of an over violation. Tried to transfer her responsibility to protect the barrel records to a council member, city council member at the time. And I didn't have any responsibility, I turned everything in.
You got under group here. This is 2006. Where are we going with this?
Because we paid Arnett in 2016 additional money on this same case, so it's been dragging on for over 12 years.
Mr. Sharkey,
So
the
you
case
have
is
to-
over, Mr. Sharkey.
Don't interrupt me.
I am interrupting you. The case
Chief,
is
if
over.
this is going to disrupt my
Hold
presentation.
on.
Wait,
Yeah,
both of you. I'm in control of the meeting,
Okay.
okay? Not you, not Scott, I am. And continue with your presentation, but there's gonna be some refutation. I'm gonna allow the council, people that were here, or the council, to refute some things. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so my point on this whole thing is that when a borough attorney, okay, conceals important information from the council members, the council members can't make a right decision. And then my point, the second point on this, concealment, is number one, it's just wrong, is that if you have an attorney who's representing the borough, Bennett in the first case, and Arnett handled this first, this is what I'm talking about now, they have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the borough. They should have said, hey, clerk, don't lie, reveal all the facts, let's end this and walk away. All right, that's what a fiduciary borough attorney should be doing. All right, but as the billing records indicate, he represented the clerk, helped prepare a certification, represented her before testimony in front of the judge, and neither one of them disclosed what happened. And that's just wrong. All right? So do we want that type of attorney in our midst? And I want you to consider that as the objective, is that the tone at the top has to be right. You can't have concealed limited information from six sitting council members. You can't have borough employees withholding information. You can't have borough professionals withholding information from you. You gotta do something about it. That's my point. I'll take any questions. Questions?
No, I agree with your list, Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Anybody else want to come to the microphone?
Joe Folks, 60 Pemberton Avenue. You guys like to talk. There's so much covered here about Fort Monmouth. And it was, I wish I had a pen to write down some notes, but one thing that stuck in my mind was a number of $600,000 about asbestos abatement. And I guess apparently, from what I would gather, I would assume that there was some asbestos abatement to begin with. So I'm assuming there was additional, the $600,000 was or an increased amount, but there was also an initial base amount. I don't know what that is, if somebody can.
I think it's about $150,000.
So the actual number is 150, not 600,000.
No, it could get up there as they take stuff apart. I mean, there are tiles, these are old buildings.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
And this is, and like you Sharkey mentioned, these things that go on. You guys are professionals in certain things, but not professionals in others. I was a professional involved in many projects that involved asbestos abatement. Now, I don't know if it's news to you guys, but before, and certainly with a property, any property, but certainly on a project, an industrial project, before somebody comes in to bid that project, they know exactly how much asbestos they're gonna remove. There are overruns, and you guys probably know that. It's usually, I think, 10 or 15% built into the contract. So, you know, that extra $150,000, that's more than a 10 or 15%, obviously. And in my opinion, it's probably something that could have been seen beforehand. That's what I'm getting at. So, what I would say is, obviously, asbestos is not the only component that goes into the construction process. There's other concerns. There's also other environmental concerns, such as ground contaminants and everything else. And that should be done in an orderly fashion and to be kept inside that 10 to 15% cap. We're actually done below budget without an increase. But aside from that, let me go a little further on Fort Monmouth. We talked about frustration of the council tonight to the point where we don't even need a zoning or a planning board. I find that unproductive. I've been here almost at every meeting. I've spoken about, the purpose of Vermeer, we heard tonight, was to replace the jobs. I spoke here and proposed an idea that could have been looked at to provide I don't know how many jobs, 50, 60, 100, probably more, probably 150 jobs. Union jobs, high-quality technical jobs in a cannabis medical grow facility with 0 customers. You wouldn't have to send an ambulance there. You wouldn't have to send a fire truck. This is all stuff I told you guys. You say you don't want Oceanport to get any bigger, but yet some of the council are okay with a 30 or 40 height limit on their structures. I would also add, in that case, with our defunct building codes that we've had over the past 20 or 30 years, that we probably had homeowners that went over that 30 or 40 foot mark, and nobody is out there with a tape measure. So I think our problems at Fort Monmouth are political. I don't think I based an ideal on the image of Oceanport. I think that Vermeer and the power of the state have other ideas for that. It's my opinion that we are going against that and possibly causing our own grief. And also probably entering us into another situation where, and I think the mayor said it tonight, where it's gonna be a situation where it's gonna be litigation, where you have to wrestle away the zoning board, or the zoning rights.
I said legislation, not litigation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In order to change how the process for making applications for amendments, you have to change the legislation, not litigate.
And the legislation, well, probably has to let the litigation
No,
pass.
it wouldn't lead to.
Hopefully not, but in some cases, obviously it does. So, we're getting away from that guy.
Pay attention.
You guys sent me away. When we talked about cannabis, as Ray said, we don't engage in making cannabis laws. And we actually did engage in making cannabis laws. The ordinances, I'm done. You can comment when I'm done, Mr. Irish, So we didn't form a committee in town to get the public's opinion so much. We did have some open comment on the ordinance, but we didn't go to the length of other towns to get the real public opinion of what the town actually wanted. And I don't want to go around making requests for open stuff. I hope my legislators will be a little truthful to me. So I did an open request for communications between the council, the mayor of Point Pleasant, which came back 0, and also emails and communications between the organizations of RAMP, which is Responsible Approach to Marijuana Policy, and SAM is Sensible Approach to Marijuana. Those two organizations I have met all over the state. I've sat on the other side of the table at legislative meetings. I understand their motives. They are very anti-cannabis. They are very pro-opioid. They are very pro drug addiction, heavy behavioral, invest in behavioral science. We have now uncovered that the donors, it's pretty disgusting. This is what the town seemed to kind of marry. Okay, so this 600-page, I'll call it phone book of cannabis rhetoric, okay, ended up in the hands of, I hope, hopefully, that it was disseminated to every councilman. Mayor, you had a big white book on the table. I'm going to probably open that, or we can get past it right now, and you can save everybody the effort here. Was that 600-page SAM publication?
No, that was all my research.
That was all your, that's good, I like that. Did you see the SAM?
I get.
You get flooded, and you're not gonna read 600 pages.
I get the
So,
same. Because
but I will add, okay, I don't expect anybody to read that 600 pages, because it ought to put you to sleep. If it really wakes you up, you have a problem reading it. So that 600 pages that was, obviously sent to, I don't know if everybody read it, everything in that document was put forth in the legislation. Everything that was in that document, those documents, was talked about in fact. One of them was the Rocky Mountain Report, the other one is the brain damage on the children, yada, 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 the whole 9 yards. And we took that and we made legislation, maybe not based on that 600 pages, but based on the policy that's in that 600 pages. It's the same, we took the same approach. That same approach, which is pushed by $4.5 million that showed up from these rehab people, okay? We pushed that in our town. So our ordinance, if it wasn't pushed by that, it's certainly in line with it. It's Kevin Sabat. He pushed that to us. So Kevin Sabat got thrown out on his ass by the police department in Wall Township. He's a fraud. He's a TV evangelist. He's pushing rhetoric. Mayor Reed is pushing the same rhetoric, same thing that's in the box as the SAM. Mayor Reed started the RAMP situation. These are 501c3s. These guys are TV evangelists. They're highly funded by people who want end goal. They don't want medical cannabis knocking them out of the box, taking away the drug addicts that go into their behavioral health, and reducing opioids. It's exactly what I talked about with you guys. And now, so what I'm asking you guys to do the right thing. Because West Long Branch is doing it now. The state and the Board of Health wants to deal with opioids. Do us all a favor, save the citizens that you're representing, and take medical cannabis out of that ordinance. For two reasons. For the one I just said, and the second reason, because when legislation passes, the state is going to mandate where cannabis is sold. And obviously, the reason they want to do that is because of the opioid crisis. Ocean County, the prosecutor's office is getting investigated for being involved with these rogue groups of, not all of them, these rehab facilities. There's salesmen that they send out, they're body brokers, they're called, and I suggest all of you to investigate it. Go to YouTube, see the video. There's people that are sending their children to these facilities for help, and they're coming back worse, or they're recycling back in it, or worse, they're even dying in it.
All right, but the goal is that we would change our ordinance once the statute is passed, that they remove medical cannabis. That's your goal, right?
Well, I hope it will be the goal now that.
No, what I'm saying is you're asking the
Yes,
council to.
yes, and I hope that will be the goal after that I pointed it out, that our policy is aligned with a bunch of organizations that are actually corrupt. That's one important.
Thank you.
Do with it what you want.
Anybody else?
Just a quick statement, I want to respond to one thing. We did not pass any cannabis laws. We passed a law, a zoning law. That was it. We are not in charge of cannabis laws.
We passed an ordinance.
I'm sorry.
Zoning ordinance.
Zoning ordinance.
Right.
In your request,
It's okay, just like the Caveira is gonna tell you how to zone, the state's gonna tell you how to zone. That's just gonna happen. It's not gonna be seed to sale. It's gonna be no very little, it's not gonna be a problem for us.
Anybody else? If nobody else, I'll take a motion to
Before
adjourn.
we adjourn, I just want to be on the record, I want to take exception with a statement you made a few minutes ago regarding the FAMIRA process in Plan Amendment 13. Your characterization implies that you were justified in withholding that information from counsel. With all due respect, I would like to note on the record that I disagree with that position.
Thank you. Anybody else? We got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.